Book audience. So at this point, you should have a decent idea of what your objectives are. If you're not finished, that's okay. If you don't know, that's okay. So let's talk about audience. What's a book with no audience called? There is a name for that. Do you know what it's called? A diary. So there's nothing wrong with writing a diary, right? But just make sure, even if you're writing a memoir is not a diary. These are not the same thing. Do not confuse them. And definitely a reputation nonfiction book is not a diary. The difference between a diary and a book is very simple: an audience. And so when you're writing for an audience, you need to make sure that you keep the audience in mind. So what mistakes do authors make with audiences? Let's look at a couple of them. First mistake is they go broad instead of niche. So we've talked about this before some. Let's really talk about it more now. But let me use a metaphor. So what's the easiest way to strike oil? Do you dig an inch deep and a mile wide? No, that would be dumb. You're an inch wide and a mile deep. And don't say it's a foot wide or 2 feet. You get what I mean. The point is, it's a very narrow opening that goes far down into the ground, right? Okay, oil and books work the same way. As marketers like to say, the riches are in the niches, right? So great authors like Malcolm Gladwell, Tim Ferriss, they both started in niches. Malcolm Gladwell was a science writer. Tim started in this weird niche that didn't exist when he started, called lifestyle design. Michael Lewis was financial writing. I was blogging before blogging existed, right? So let's explain the difference between a niche and a broad audience, because this is really important. So I want to make sure you guys all get this. Most authors should focus on a niche audience, a small audience. So for example, a book, this is a real book that we did here at Scribe, and Guided Author. A book on managing a specific type of a small business, like a pizza parlor, not all small businesses, right? So this guy, Mike, came in. He owns like the best pizza place in Tulsa. I can't remember the name. Can you, Hal and Emily, can you guys remember the name? His pizza place? Fuck, I feel bad now. It's supposedly like the best pizza place in Oklahoma, which apparently is a thing. There's like voting on this. And it's won consistently for years. And so anyway, he came in thinking, I got to write a book on teaching small businesses. And we're like, how to run. It's like, well, why all small businesses? Because like a plumber has nothing to do with a restaurant. So why would you try? He's like, well, it's a bigger audience. It'll attract more people. It's like, okay, I guess. But again, the problem is there's almost no book that a plumber is going to use that is also applicable to someone running a pizza parlor. And so we're like, well, we asked him, so what do you do? Like, what's the objective? This is where objectives come in. Well, I want to use this book to raise my reputation in my industry and get more consulting business. What do you consult on, Mike? I help pizza parlors run. It's like, dude, you're not writing a book on all small business. Why not just write a book on how to manage a pizza parlor? He's like, I thought about that, but I just thought it was too niche. It's like, no, that's good. Niche is a good thing. And so now I think he just finished the draft. I think he just turned it in. And this is going to be the definitive book on how to run a pizza parlor, right? Now, God forbid, I hope we are able to go to pizza parlors soon.
But anyway. By the way, Tucker, it's called Andolini's.
That's right, Andolini's. Yeah. So if you live in Tulsa, I'm sure you know Andolini's. So the guy who owns Andolini's. A broad audience. Now, that's a niche audience. You can write a book for a broad audience, okay? But only if the book is a specific solution to a widespread problem. So I'll give you another example from an author of ours. Come on now. How to lose weight. That's as widespread a problem as it gets in America. That's like 50% of the population needs to lose weight, right? Using the carnivore diet. Now that's a very specific solution, right? Like that is a very niche solution that doesn't apply to all people, that applies to a specific type of person and is a very specific type of solution. So there are weight loss sections in the bookstore. Doing a book on just general weight loss, not getting you in. Doing a book on weight loss in a specific way is probably getting you in. Carnivore diet. I don't mean literal bookstore. I mean the audience, positioning in the audience's mind. So now, as a general rule, broad ideas influence more people, but to a lesser degree. Specific ideas influence less people to a greater degree. The best way I've ever heard this phrase is Dan Sullivan, who is also a client of ours, not in Guided Author, but I'm working with him, and Ben Hardy. The smaller the niche, the bigger the market. right? And so if you're writing a book that to try and help raise your reputation, the smaller the niche, the bigger the market is good advice for you. Let's stop here. Are there, you guys seeing big questions come up with this? Because this is often like a very confusing thing for people in workshops.
Yeah, raise your hand if you're confused by this, just to get a sense.
Yeah, Tucker,
we'll put questions in the Q&A.
I did see something earlier today. Somebody was asking about, I want to write, I think it was to like first generation Filipino immigrants. And is that too narrow? I'm like, no. Like, actually, that's really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, it depends what it depends what the objective is, right? So you can be too narrow. It is entirely possible to be too narrow. We've seen this, but that usually is people like they already had a narrow market and they heard this and like, I got to be more narrow. No. Just be as narrow as possible that makes sense.
Somebody brought up a question here. What about like 7 Habits of Highly Successful People? Like, how would you describe that one working for its audience?
So 7 Habits is about as, well, first off, it's definitely to a broad audience. It's a pretty specific solution. What Stephen Covey did is he took the 7, like he's Mormon, and he basically took the teachings of the church. And like, there's if any of you are Mormon, I'm getting the details wrong. Forgive me because I'm not Mormon, but I had a Mormon person explain this to me. And so I think it's true. And he's like, I think big in the Mormon church. But he basically said Stephen Covey just used the Mormon Guide to Life, essentially to write that book. And so, but regardless, it's still and Stephen started, his niche was Mormons at the beginning. Like, I know that's how the book got big, is that book sold like 1 million copies in Utah before anyone had any idea outside of Utah what this thing was. And it just turns out it was a really good book. You don't have to be Mormon at all to like it and to use it. But it's deeply inspired by Mormon principles and sold and like kind of blew up in that niche before it got bigger. So writing a broad self-help book is one of the major mistakes we see authors make, is trying to write broad ideas to a broad audience. Because like then you're competing with Stephen Covey and Dale Carnegie and Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss, and you're not going to win, right? But if you're taking any of that stuff and going to Filipino immigrants, you're going to dominate because you're the only one writing to Filipino immigrants about those things.
Hey, here's a related question. Michael asked, how do you tell if a niche is saturated and moving into the more mass market class? I'm not sure I understand that second part of the question, but.
Well, okay, I don't either. But how do you tell a niche is saturated? It's really simple. So identify the niche and then ask yourself who the dominant players are. And if you can't name anyone, it's not saturated. If you can name one person, then there's room for second. If you can name 3, don't go into it. And if you can name 2, it's borderline. Then the question is, can I beat one of those 2?
Well, and I would think too, like it's an opportunity to rethink who you want to talk to, because everybody's got unique wisdom that they're trying to teach. And if let's say stick with Filipino immigrants. Okay, first generation Filipino immigrants. How about first generation Filipino immigrants in California, right? Still a huge audience, but you're going to write California specific things for them. That might be your unique.
Right. I would just because people will not understand that is too niche for a book. You don't need to write a book for California immigrants as opposed to Arizona.
A lot of people there, Tucker.
That's too niche. No, let me give you a better example. South Asian immigrants versus Filipino immigrants.
Yeah. There
right.
You go.
Like that's like South Asia would be Thailand, Cambodia, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, versus just one country or one ethnicity within South Asia. That and that would have just, there's not a yes or right or wrong answer there. That just depends.
Hey, I know you want to go on, but here's one that I really want you to talk to, because it's about an author we worked with, Ben Hardy. Says, how would you describe Ben Hardy's work? Personality isn't permanent, willpower doesn't work.
Right. So I helped Ben Hardy edit Personality. Like I was the editor on Personality Isn't Permanent. And Dan Sullivan's book, Ben Hardy is the main co-writer, and I'm editing that. So I know Ben's work really well. He's a good friend of mine. I would describe Ben's work as personal development for smart people who want evidence-based personal development for smart people. Right. And it's not, I don't think his stuff he is decently broad, but like, you remember he started on Medium, and his Medium articles, he's one of the first people I've ever seen who deeply understands the empirical data behind psychology and then understands how to write about it in a way that regular people can understand, right? Whereas most personal development people are taking, they're like, okay, they're coaches, let's just say. They coach people or they help people, and then they see what works, and then sometimes they'll hire someone to fill data in to justify what they're saying. Ben's the other way around. Ben starts with the data and then like figures out what works and then coaches people on that. So he's like he is the niche is, if you're a smart person who wants actual empirical data to understand how to actually change, he's the dude to listen to. All right, any other questions? No? All right, cool.
Going to niche, did you cover that?
Yeah, we did, about the Filipino immigrants. Cool. Yeah. All right, second mistake. You don't know why your audience will care. If you don't know why your audience will care about your book, then they won't. I cannot be more clear about this. This is one of the most important things I'm going to teach. If you don't know why they care, they won't, right? A hard truth you should all sear into your brain. Please listen to this. Your audience does not care about your book. They don't, right? What do they care about? They only care about what your book gets them, right? And that's true for every, I don't know how many thousands of books in my library here. I don't care about any of these authors. Even like Charlie's book is in here. I like Charlie as a person. I don't care about him as an author, right? What I care about is, I know, really, seriously, what a jerk, right? But I only care about how that book is going to help me. And all of you buy books. So you all know when you buy a book, you're not like, oh, they seem like a nice person, I'll buy their book. Of course not. What you do is you think, this book will help me in some way. You get me something I want. Like if it's fiction, it gets me entertainment, escapism, whatever. If it's nonfiction, it's going to help me solve a problem or create a transformation. But the point is, you always buy them for yourself. People forget this when they start writing their own books. So sear this into your brain. Your audience doesn't care about you or your book, only what your book will get them. All right. So we're going to dive into in a second really why this matters. So the third big mistake is confusing psychographics with demographics. Now, we just had David Allison on. He talks about value graphics. It's very similar. Think of value graphics and psychographics as the same thing. Demographics are what people are: sex, age, race, class, marital status, income. They're objective external things that you can measure and see, right? For example, a woman aged 45 to 65, married with children, dealing with issues of weight gain, diabetes, and lack of energy, household income over $100,000. That's a demographic profile of a set of people, right? But you still don't know anything about them, right? This is my favorite Onion ad of all, or Onion joke of all time. Field of demography collapses after 92-year-old woman buys Monster energy drink and Sweet Fusion vape juice, right? Because like no demographic profile would ever have that woman buying those things, but it's totally possible, right? That's why when David was talking earlier about value graphics, he's figured out a way to measure people's, what other people call psychographics, their values, what they think, right? What they feel. Psychographics are how people think: emotions, values, and mental state. For example, the same woman we just profiled. A psychographic profile would be concerned with her health and appearance, wants a healthy lifestyle, enjoys going online in the evenings, tends to favor quality over economy, values time with friends. Now you know how to market her. But the demographic profile, she could be a Trump voter, a Clinton voter, or whatever, Biden voter, or red state, blue state. She could, there's a million things that about her that she may not care about her weight. She may care a lot about her weight. You don't know. But with psychographics, you know. So I think the best thing to do is to combine demographic and psychographic data to target a niche audience. For example, we don't have Taylor, remind me to put a slide in here for examples. For the next time we do this, just to give more specific examples. So we're going to go through the next section is primary audience. So I want you to fill this out, but let me give you some examples of a good primary audience. This is combining demographic and psychographic data to understand who your audience is. But if that's all confusing to you, you can throw all that out and just ask yourself this question: who do I want to be a hero to? Who do I want my book to be a hero to? That's it. That's what it all boils down to. So let me give you an example of a bad primary audience. Women 20 to 70 who are suffering and want to feel better. Suffering is a constant state of life for everybody. It's the default state, right? So like, I don't know what that means. That's too broad. There's no way to market to those people. Any executive who wants to be a better leader, that's every executive, right? That's so broad, it doesn't really mean anything. It's tough. Like, how are you going to talk to a mid-manager in a plumbing supply company the same way you're going to talk to a high-level executive at Comcast? There's no way, right? Too broad. Young men and women looking for something more out of life. That doesn't mean anything. That's not a really good primary audience. It's way too broad. Now, let's give you some good specific ones. These are just examples, of course. Chiropractors who own their own practice looking for better ways to market their business. Now you know exactly who they are. This is a specific professional in a specific profession who has a specific problem, right? Chiropractors own a practice, aren't marketing good. Next one, accredited investors looking for how to get into wine as an investment. Again, very specific, right? People who have a lot of money, who want to invest it, want to invest in wine. Women executives aged 30 to 45 who want to have kids but don't want to compromise their career. Now notice that's actually a big niche. There's a lot of women in that niche. Big is okay if they all have the same problem, and you can clearly identify that problem. And that's women executives 30 to 45 wanting to have kids, don't want to compromise career. That's a pretty solid niche in that even though it's a lot of people, they probably think very similar, have similar values and problems. Does it all make sense? Here's a good example. This is a book called The Game-Changing Attorney. We did this book by Michael Mogill. It teaches attorneys with law firms how to market their law firm, right? And when we were doing the book, Mike thought, hey, maybe I should just make this for anyone in it, like any service professional, right? Because he's like, it could work for not just attorneys, but it could work for investment professionals and wealth advisors. And there's a huge class of professionals it could work for. And it was like, hold on, Mike has a company that does marketing videos for attorneys. And we're like, those people aren't, like, wealth advisors aren't your clients, are they? He's like, no. Do you want them as clients? He's like, not really. It's like, all right, focus the book only on attorneys, right? Even though I'm telling you, if you own a wealth advisory, you could buy this book and you could take 95% of what's in this book and use it for your firm. You would never buy it though, because this is The Game-Changing Attorney, which is good. Because if you're an attorney looking for advice on marketing, you're not going to buy marketing books when there's a marketing book for attorneys right there. So that's why he chose this positioning. And by the way, it's worked fantastic. His firm has grown, I think, 5x over the last 2 years or something crazy like that. And he's blown up. The book's been a big part of why. Not the only reason why, but it's been a really big part of why. And so that's why niche positioning. Whereas if he just said the small business marketing guide, it would not, no attorney thinks that's for them, right? Everyone thinks they're special. Is this all making sense to everybody? All right, so what I want you to do right now is write your primary audience. And then when you write it on your template, if you want to share it, put it in the comments, the chat, and let's start reading some of those out.
And we might do a hot seat or two as well. So raise your hand.
No, let's do hot seat with Avatar. Let's do with Avatar.
Cool. Never mind.
Hey, Tucker, here's one. Let's see. Looking for some feedback here. This is from Jeremy. Modern entrepreneurs married with kids that want to reduce their impulsive behaviors, find focus, and express more internal certainty.
I have no idea what that. It's broad, and I don't understand what the connection. What does kids have to do with this? What does certainty get you? What's the book about? Like, that's what it doesn't make sense. Like, notice how all the primary. Let me go back. Notice all the primary audiences I had. You know exactly what their problem is. Chiropractors who want to market better, accredited investors who want wine, women executives who want kids but don't want to compromise career. Like, you know what their problem is. I don't know what the problem is of that audience. So read more.
Here's
a
another
good one to dissect.
Go ahead, Emily. Go.
Anyone struggling to move past adversity or a traumatic experience. This person likely suffers from anxiety or PTSD, whether or not they've been formally diagnosed. They are feeling stuck and depressed and can't figure out a way to bounce back from their trauma.
I was going to say it's too broad.
Well, I think
may not be, though.
Is interesting. Yeah, because it depends on what your solution is, right? Like if you're speaking particularly to someone who's survived a certain kind of trauma and your advice is very, very specific, then obviously you want to niche down to that one specific group, such
Right.
as like war veterans versus rape survivors, right? They're going to have different kinds of advice. But if what you plan to teach in your group, in your book, actually is like a general, here's how to overcome trauma of all different kinds, then that particular audience does work.
Yeah, that actually may work. Even though, again, like we said, a broad audience with a specific solution can work. And so if this is, here's how to dissect and overcome trauma, here's the way, there, vagal nerve, whatever stuff, or there's a million different ways to do it, then that might work. My instinct is that's probably too broad, but it may work. Who else?
Here's one that feels like it might be closer to the mark. This is from Sharon. It says, moms in their 30s who want to start homeschooling yet are scared of missing something and causing their kids to fall behind. So there's some clear demographic and
assuming
psychographic
that's a
stuff.
book on, right. Assuming that's a book on how to homeschool, right? I'm not sure why it needs to be moms in their 30s. I guess just because most moms are in their 30s. But like sometimes, again, some niche parts don't need to go in there. Moms who want to start homeschooling their kids but are afraid to do it because they're afraid they're going to miss something important, then that's good. Like the Anxious Mom's Guide to Homeschooling or something like that, which again, I'm just spitballing. That actually would be really good. That would be a really good way or the Perfectionist Mom's Guide to Homeschooling, something like that. Because there's a lot of homeschooling books out there. Or the homeschooling guide for moms who don't want to miss something. Something like that might be really cool.
Here's one that Tucker, I'm curious what you think about this one. It's actors who haven't yet made it in the film and TV industry. And my first reaction is well, that's most actors. Yeah. But that actually might still be niche enough to work.
I think it's totally niche. Yeah. Well, it's just actors who haven't made it. That's it?
That's it. That's all that there is here.
What problem do they have that they haven't made it?
They haven't made it.
Yeah, no, that is niche enough. That actually is. Even though, again, a lot of people is okay. Niche means more about the problem. And if you are an actor and you haven't made it, that is a specific problem. So yeah, that could work.
There are a few I want to call out that are vague. We can kind of look at a couple of these together. Women business owners who are struggling to get out of their own way. Entrepreneurs who want to reduce their impulsive behaviors and find focus, women struggling to get pregnant. Like these are really, really huge audiences. And again, it's about finding what is the specific. I like to think of it as what's the pain that makes them pick up your book? Like how do you get that specific that they see this sliver of a solution and they're like, yes, that's what I want.
Yeah. No, it's 100%. Women struggling to get pregnant is a pretty specific pain. Although you may even want to go more niche. It depends on what you're talking about. But like women entrepreneurs trying to get out of their own ways, that's way too broad. I don't know what that means.
Here's a really tight one actually. How to work with your spouse from home. Super specific problem.
That's a great one.
Oh, write that book right now. Get it out soon, man.
I'll tell you what the key is. You make up an imaginary person and you blame everything on them. This Cheryl keeps leaving cups over here. Will you talk to her? I've talked to her. She's not doing it.
All right, actually, right next to this one is another one that I think actually just really misses the mark. It's just young women in their 20s. I know nothing about that. That doesn't tell me anything at all.
Okay, I can't be any clearer about these. Everyone, every primary audience has to have a problem. If they don't have a problem, they don't have a pain, like Emily said, if they don't have a pain that's making them pick up your book, they're not your audience.
Well, maybe all young women in their 20s are in pain. I don't know.
But the question is it the same pain?
Yeah.
All right, so this gets us to our next point. Now we're going to hear, this is going to be this is the serious work session right here. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you to create an avatar of someone in your primary audience and tell their transformation story. Okay?
Let's define what that's.
If only I would do that. We want you to speak to the one person this book is for, right? Someone who represents the class of people, like the perfect example of your your primary audience, right? So doing this is how Tim Ferriss and I wrote 8 best-selling books. We wrote our books as emails to friends, right? And so because our friends were the primary audience and we wrote it to them, and then a lot of people who were just like our friends liked the books, okay? So it's 3 steps. I'm gonna walk you through the next 3 steps. Describe a typical person in your primary audience. So who are they? Who is this person? Tell me about them. Give them a name, right? Tell me, about their age. What do they do? Where are they in life? You don't have to go crazy. 3-4 sentences, fine. Then this is really important. What pain is this person experiencing because they haven't read your book? That's really important. And then what benefit are they going to get from reading your book? Pretend they read it and they do everything you say. What transformation occurs in their life, right? The point of this whole exercise is to tell the transformation story about your ideal reader. Who were they before the book? What pain are they in? Who are they going to be after they read your book and apply it? You just get to assume they're going to read it and apply it, right? Now, you can tell your own story. If you're writing this book for a prior version of yourself, you didn't know how to start a business, you learned how to start a business, now you're going to teach 20-something women how to start their own lifestyle business or whatever it is, you can do that. That's cool. So but write about how you used to be, not who you are now. Because for many of us, reputation books are about helping a prior version of ourselves solve a problem we had. Makes total sense. So Taylor, let's pull it. You put the, I want to read one of these. I'm going to read an example of, let me do this right now. Do we have, I think Taylor put this up here. Let's see, Scribe. How to write for and target your audience. So Taylor, put the link to this in there. This is the blog post that goes over everything I just talked about. It's going to be very, very similar, but I want to read one of these. Awesome. She put it in. Good job, Taylor. This is why you have a job, because you do your job. All right. So let me read one of these. If you guys want to ignore what I'm about to do and go do your avatar, please do. Feel free. There's no problem. I don't care if you're paying attention to me. I just want you to be doing this work. If you want to read along with me. So Jennifer, the example, this is a book. So I can tell you, this is a book about teaching an advanced practice nurse, like a nurse practitioner, how to start her own healthcare practice. So who's the primary audience? Advanced practice nurses interested in starting a healthcare practice. Describe a typical person in the avatar. What are they like? Jennifer's an APN who currently works for a physician, hospital, or large practice. She doesn't make as much money as she feels she should, and she works long hours to take her away from her family. In order to meet volume quotas and stay on schedule, she isn't able to spend time with her patients. It makes her feel rushed and stressed. So part of this, it's very typical for people to put the pain up in the description of the person, which is what she did. This is a real book, by the way, for a real author, which is fine. She worries she may be missing things or not providing quality care that would be possible if she had more time. Further, she's not able to practice the type of preventative relationship-based care that fuels her soul. She's afraid of leaving the security of her current position, but she isn't sure she wants to keep practicing if she doesn't actually make a change in her life. She wants to start her own practice, doesn't know where to start or what to do. She's looking for guidance and permission, but hasn't found a book or mentor to help her. That's pretty good. Now let's really dive into the pain here. Jennifer feels stressed and rushed at her current job. She's unhappy, unfulfilled, and has considered leaving nursing. She's afraid of starting her own practice because she doesn't know where to start or what to do. She's afraid she'll fail. She's afraid she won't make any money. She's a nurse, not an entrepreneur. She isn't sure if she's doing things right, which is scary because she likes to follow the rules, like all nurses do. My wife's a nurse, that's why I know. All this uncertainty means it's taking Jennifer a lot longer than she should to start her practice, leaving her in her current job where she's unhappy. Now, again, if you notice, there's some overlap in the pain between the description and the pain. That's okay if you do that. Now, let's talk about the transformation. Jennifer will get a step-by-step guide to start her own practice. The process is no longer mysterious. It now seems achievable. She knows the applicable laws and regulations, so she has peace of mind knowing she won't be breaking rules. With this roadmap and examples of other APNs who have succeeded, Jennifer now has the confidence and permission to start her own practice. She's less afraid of failure. She's less afraid of failure because she has strategies to mitigate the risk of starting a business. She's now fast-tracked to get what she wants, a better lifestyle, freedom and autonomy to practice the type of medicine she loves, and the ability to benefit from her hard labor and a recognition as a leader in the community. I would even extend this to say that she now starts the practice and she's doing it, and now she's left her nursing job. That's the real transformation, right? This is the way that this author wrote this. Is she gave her the transformation after she finished the book, which is all true. The ultimate goal is for her to actually start the practice, right? All right, so if you want to read more on here, keep reading. I don't want to keep reading a bunch. There's 4 on here that are good examples. Read those. It's posted in the chat, right?
Yeah, I believe Taylor put it in there. Tucker, one more thought I had on this. If transformation is, for whatever reason, too vague of a notion, I always like to think of this exercise as the hell and heaven exercise. The more vividly you can describe the absolute hell they're dealing with, and the more vividly you can describe the heaven they're getting to, the better it is.
That's a great point. Yeah, if you want to consider a hell and heaven exercise, go ahead. That totally works. So we're going to take a 2-minute break, give you guys some time. If you want to be hot seated with this, in the chat, say, I'm done, I'm ready to be hot seated.
No, raise your hand when you're done. It's easier to see, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so raise your hand, and I don't expect anyone to happen right away. And then we'll hot seat 1 or 2 people, have them read them. And if you're going to be hot seated, short, please. Not like, it can't, like the one I just read would be a little bit too long. Just for the hot seat. The avatars you write should eventually be pretty long, actually, because you're going to use this later on for other things.
While they're writing, Tucker, could you go ahead in the Q&A and dismiss the questions that you've answered? Or, yeah. Because we can't, there are a few that you marked that we can't dismiss on our end.
Direct question for Tucker. I have a finance and biz ops framework. I thought this may be the foundation for a book and wondered, would you, when you're realizing, read a book like that? Yes. So Cindy M, here, this I would have. Less afraid and more, this is hard to do consistently. How much difference does it make if I just let it go this time? I don't know what that means. Adam Chapman, what do you do when the issue the client has is never phrased as a real issue? Part of the book is shine a light on the true issue. That's such a good question. So Adam Chapman's question, what do you do when the issue the client has is never phrased as a real issue? Part of the book is shining a light on the true issue. Why it's a real one, how to manage it. Yes, 100%. So like we just did a book with Pam Markova is her name. She's going to be on tomorrow morning in the author Q&A. And her book is basically how to be a better leader, which is a ton of books. But the point of the book is you need to stop talking and start listening, right? And no one who's a bad leader thinks they're a bad leader because they don't listen enough, right? And so you can, Adam, ask this question of her tomorrow and how she managed that. But you're absolutely right. If people don't understand what their problem is, then you gotta, in marketing, there's a phrase, sell them what they want, give them what they need. So like in this thing, what all you want is to write a book, right? And we sold that to you to get you here. Now we're giving you what you need, which is a lot of stuff that's hard, right? But it'll get you to a written book. So you got to do the same thing.
And a quick point on that. This is a great way to, and we're not at this yet, but it's a great introduction chapter where you're listing off, here are the problems that you think you have, but they're, and then you reframe it as these are actually symptoms of the big problem, which, like the 5 Love Languages book does this really well. They explain, like, here's broken relationships, all the symptoms. The reason is they don't know the love languages, and then you get into the methodology. All right, so should we do a hot seat, Tucker?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Ian, he is asking to hot seat. Ian, you'll have to unmute your mic. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much
so-
for doing this. I appreciate the time as well.
Of course, it's our pleasure, man. So go ahead and read off the first the 3 sections. Just go one by one.
Yep, sounds good. So describing the typical person in the primary audience, I gave him Tucker. So Tucker is a guy in his late 20s working in a demanding tech career. He's constantly running between meetings, working on projects, and trying to hit ever-increasing sales targets. He's constantly stressed at work because of the more and more vision of the company. As a result, he started cutting corners with his health and fitness. He's gained an appreciable amount of weight, stopped going to the gym, and spent weekends out partying to get some respite from his stressful weeks. So what pain is this person experiencing because they haven't read my book? So Tucker's tried and failed a lot of times to take control of his health and fitness. He's bought workout plans, followed meal templates, watched YouTube videos, bought supplements, tried joining a CrossFit gym, and he signed up for God knows how many 30-day transformation challenges. They all seem like viable solutions, and it seems like what everyone's doing, but none of these have fit within the context of his real life. So what is the transformation that Tucker's going to get from my book? So because Tucker picked up my book, he's learned that taking back his health and fitness doesn't require all or nothing thinking and extreme sacrifice. He's learned about me and my successes implementing small, strategic, habit-based health and fitness practices that fit in the context of busy lives. These steps are small enough to be implemented in his life right away, but impactful enough to drive real change for his health when done consistently. Thanks to reading my book, Tucker's dropped 20 pounds, is hitting the gym 3 days a week, has learned to cook more whole food, nutritious meals, and has reduced his stress levels.
I like it a lot, man. I think it's really good. Yeah. Emily, Hal, do you guys have comments? I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really tight. Actually, it's like you read our book or something.
Yeah. No, seriously, if you did that in the workshop, I would have almost no comments. The one thing is on the transformation, I would maybe dig in a little bit more into how his life has changed, things he's doing differently. You mentioned a few. I mean, like, honestly, all my comments would just be like small things, honestly. Like, overall, that's excellent. That, for everyone listening, that's an excellent example of an avatar.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's obviously rooted in my own experience. I lost 100 pounds sort of following these types of strategies. I also work at Google, right? So I'm a tech employee. I know exactly what the day-to-day feels like and what sort of stressors they're under. So this is definitely like the type of problem that I want to solve because I see it with my colleagues all the time. I also work as a nutrition coach with Precision Nutrition, or I got my certification through Precision Nutrition.
Oh, John, I know John. Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a huge, I actually, you probably know Nate Green as well. I was turned on to Precision Nate years and years ago. And I finally got my certification through them. And I'm working with 10 clients at the moment who are sort of in this type of target market already. So I'm already getting a lot of practical experience. And
Who's your primary audience, Ian?
So my primary, based on my current clientele or who I'm
No, for the book, what's your primary audience?
So my primary audience is busy professionals who struggle to keep up with their health and fitness and want to get and stay in great shape with practical habit-based goals and strategies.
So this is just a suggestion. That's not bad at all. Yep. I would suggest that you go more niche. I would say something like, especially if you worked at Google, right?
Yep.
And you lost 100 pounds.
Yep.
Like the market I would go after that my guess is, and I am guessing, so don't take this as gospel. My guess is if you went after like programmers or tech people, like the tech person's guide to losing weight, like tech person's guide to losing weight, or like something like that, where you go after people who are very rational, analytical, logical, who work in tech, who like like go even more into your niche in your avatar. Like young professionals guy, you're going to have like a middle manager at Verizon who lives in Kansas. Like that's not, this book is not for them, right? This book is for people who work for big tech companies or startups and like live this sedentary, I'm sitting here typing on my computer all day lifestyle. So just fucking own that, man. Become the guy. Like the one, I'll tell you who did something like this that he's killed it with is Steve. I can't remember his name. You know, Nerd Fitness. Have you heard of them?
Steve Camp.
Absolutely.
Steve Camp, right. So like this is like Nerd Fitness for tech people, you know? And so like he just went all in on Nerd Fitness. It works amazing. If I were you, I would go all in on this positioning. And this is the most important part about branding, dude. It's you must repel other people. So even though there's a huge amount of people you could potentially work with, the more you go into tech, the more you will repel non-tech people. But I'm going to argue that's okay, because you will attract way more tech people and then you will be the guy for them.
And Tucker, I was thinking even more niche, like Google employees. Like,
well, that would be obnoxious, because then like Facebook people are like, oh, this is a Google. And then you get the inter-tech wars, and you don't want, like, that's nonsense. You know what I'm saying? If you're he can be above that and say, no, we're all like, you know, in every category, it's like, you know, this sort of thing. It's like my kids do this. Bishop, my son and my daughter fight all the time, but like when I come in, then they both start fighting me, you know, like they're a total unit, or they're always at each other's throats unless there's an external threat, and then they're a unit, right? So same thing with Google and Facebook. Like there's all kinds of inner company politics, except when the government's trying to break them both up, and then they're best friends. You know? So I wouldn't go down to Google. I would stay at tech. I would just make it like, you know, if you're not a tech person, this isn't for you. These are for people who, you know, like think this way, who look at the world this way, who have this sort of lifestyle. I have designed the perfect program for you. I am one of you. This works for you.
No, that makes total sense.
Ian, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I want to jump to another hot seat, but I thought you did great. We all do.
Thank you. If I could make a just quick closing comment, actually, if we had a moment. I actually met Tucker 8 years ago at a book release party. So this is like really cool to be able to actually talk to you again. And you actually gave me a really counterintuitive piece of life advice that's actually stuck with me for years and years, and is a big part of the reason why I'm here and why I'm pursuing my training.
What is it?
So it has a curse word in it. So if I'm allowed to say it on the live stream, I'll definitely say it.
It's fucking okay, dude. It's fine.
I've literally never forgotten it when you told it to me, because we talked about writing. I approached you, I bought you a drink, and we were talking about writing. And then midway through the conversation, you obviously had to leave and go somewhere else. And you said, look, man, I don't give a fuck about you, but someday I might give a fuck about you. Literally, like, I remember that word for word to this day. And like, for some reason, it's been like the most motivating kick in the ass statement anyone's ever told me. So it's crazy that I'm now talking to you 8 years later. It was at John Romanello's book release party.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So thank you for everything.
Of course. My pleasure, man.
Yeah. This was really, really helpful. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ian. That was great. So
that is something only I would say.
Yeah, he totally quoted you accurately there. All right. So let's do Megan. Let's bring Megan on for the hot seat. Megan, how are you doing? Could you go ahead and unmute your mic if you're still there?
Talking about me, Megan?
Yes.
Yeah, there's only one Megan. Megan Knobloch.
That's me. Okay. Yep, mine is short. It says Reagan just graduated from college and was working through applying and interviewing for her first job. Then she was offered a lowball salary, accepted, and has been working for 1.5 years in a workplace dominated by males and older people that are, quote, much smarter than she is. This one's for her.
Okay. What's her pain? And what's her?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll say that she's making 60 grand and most other people around her are closer to between 70 and 80.
Okay. And then how's she going to transform by reading your book?
All of the subtleties within, this is outside of the workplace, still kind of working through it, but in all of the subtle ways that she just accepts where she is, she'll try to be empowered to kind of speak up for herself more.
She'll try to be like, so are you teaching her how to like negotiate a raise, or how to like take charge of her life? What exactly is your book going to be teaching her?
More about taking charge of her life.
Okay, so the primary audience are is it women or just young people? Or
I would say young women in their 20s. Yes.
okay, young women in their 20s who are not advocating enough for themselves or running their own lives effectively. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, yeah. So the first part was fine. I would just dive way more into her pain. Like, I mean, there's women like this who work in my company who like are amazing women. They do a great job, and they don't advocate for themselves. We actually literally, my CEO taught an entire class on how to ask for a salary increase. Like he taught here's exactly how you do it. And and then all these people are like, oh, that's amazing. And a bunch of them asked for increases, and some of them deserved them, not all, but some definitely did. And so like, like in asking for salary increases and how to take charge of more of your life is fantastic. So what you need to do is add the section on pain. What pain is she in because she is being passive and letting other people run her life, or not taking charge of her life, or not really being assertive and asking what she's looking for, and then what transformation will she go through? Like where's she going to get to? She's going to get a raise. She's going to feel more confident. She's going to be on a management fast track. She's going to have a better apartment. Whatever the things are where she's going to transform. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Yeah. Thank you so much.
In digging into the pain too, I think it would be important to dive into why she's being passive. Like, what is the real roadblock here? Because it's not she's not being passive for no reason, right? There are a lot of different contributing factors that could be causing that. So that's where your book will get a specific solution, is understanding where those roadblocks are.
Got it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Megan. All right. Do you want to do any more, or do you want to move on?
What do you guys think? You want to do one more, or should we move on?
Yeah, let's do another one if you got time.
Cool. All right.
So, but this time, let's get someone who's filled out. Megan was fine, but who's filled out all three sections, because she only had the first one filled out.
Okay.
Like Ian. Ian had all three filled out.
All right. Let me see here. I'm going to bring on Jade. You there, Jade?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jade Barkley. We know Jade.
Hey, how you guys going?
How you doing?
I really appreciate the 3 a.m. wake-up call. Thanks for that.
Good for you for showing up.
Wouldn't miss it. Cool. So where do you want me to start?
Start with who's your primary audience?
So hypermobile people who can't figure out why exercise makes things worse.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then do the next one. Describe them. Like, give them a name, describe them.
Okay. So Sarah had a busy, active life, and then her health blew up and she can't figure out why. She's had to reduce work. There's almost zero energy left for anything social. She's collected a bunch of diagnoses in recent years, got lots of conflicting information and no real answers or improvement. She can't figure out why exercise is making things worse. She wants evidence-based solutions, but this body doesn't seem to match the textbooks, and the gentlest exercises and treatments seem to do harm.
Huh. All right. So what's her pain? Although you covered a lot of it, though.
Yeah, I've done the pain thing. So I used to dance. I was an athlete, and then my body went weird. I had lots of injuries and a decade with no answers. And now I've got all these diagnoses, but there's no real way forward, and there's no management plan, and nothing's coordinated. And now the tiniest movement makes things worse. Sleep makes things worse. Uneven surfaces are impossible to walk on without pain. Eating hurts. Doctors don't listen. They dismiss and they don't understand. Nobody can connect the dots. And I'm trying to stay active and avoid a wheelchair and prevent deterioration. but I get injured just walking or being in the kitchen. I just want to be able to dance again.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the transformation.
She can keep up, Sarah can keep up with her kids now. She goes skiing and she is dancing again. And just from reading the book, I want them to know where to start, know what's possible, and know where to turn.
What's the basic premise? Like, what's the basic solution?
This is basically from my research. I've just done 40 interviews with these people, which is why I'm so in their story. And
Right.
it's basically there are 7 very valid physical reasons why exercise does harm, medical reasons why exercise does harm, and they are slipping through the cracks. So helping to actually identify what those reasons are, and then how to actually work with them in a way where you don't need to do incidental movement. You need to do intentional movement, and it needs to be adapted to these bodies that don't actually match the textbooks.
I got you. Yeah. Okay. So the transformation is going to be something, the deeper way I would say it, like the pain you nailed, the description of the pain, the transformation is something like she's finally going to understand that she's not some freak, that she is right, that the diagnoses were wrong, that there is a reason why she's having these issues, that exercise doesn't work for everyone, and that she's going to be able to understand exactly which of the 7 diagnoses or whatever, what her specific problem is, and then she'll know how to move forward both in her life and the way she talks to her practitioners.
Yes.
So that she can get to a place where she's able to sleep, she's able to dance, she's able to finally have the life she wants. Is that right?
Okay, I'm crying now. Yeah, that's awesome. Like in their words, like 2/3 of these guys cry in their doctor's office when someone finally listens to them, and in their words, it's like finally someone told them they're not crazy and it's not all in their head. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. That's really good.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a PhD on this right now. So I really want to be able to share it with people in a way that makes the difference, not just get academic publishing credit.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. You want people to adopt the idea and understand.
Yes.
I get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, that's fantastic. So everyone listening, this is a part. Jade, you went through this, right?
I have this. I'm doing a PhD on a condition that I had 24 years delayed diagnosis when the average delay is 21 years. And I didn't start getting better until I had the diagnosis and I could actually look up the right keywords and connect with the right people. But not everybody can jump on a PhD program and talk to the best
and figure it out, right?
in the world on this.
So just so everyone listening understands, this is very common. Remember when I said that the avatar is often you? So in this case, both Jade and Ian, they're both exactly their avatar. They had a problem, they solved it, and now they're bringing their knowledge and wisdom to the world to help other people with the same problem. This is the perfect use of a reputation book, of a share knowledge book. This is exactly what it's used for. And this is great. I'm excited.
To add something there, like this is also an example of how you're using your story in a reputation book. A lot of people earlier today were asking about this, and both of these books will rely heavily on the author's own stories, which gives them a lot of credibility and validation in the eyes of the reader.
Yep, exactly right. Thank you, Jade.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Tucker.
Jade.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Charlie.
All right. So I just want to add to what you guys are saying. That was great. This is such an important exercise. And the more you can truly dig into the pain and speak to very specific moments and things that they're going through, the more likely they're going to take you seriously and pay attention immediately to you. So you should almost have like a physical state change after doing the pain exercise of like you feel what they are going through on a day-to-day basis.